We welcome you to this bi-weekly press briefing on this fantastically beautiful day. I'm here with our DDOT folks to kick off the Potholepalooza, and this is the 6th year that the District of Columbia is doing this. It'll be the 4th for us. During this month-long campaign, we are planning to fast-track pothole repairs across the district. Has anybody noticed that we've had a few potholes this year? An amazing number, of course, because this was an unusually cold and snowy winter. We had, I think, 27 or 28 snow events since November 1st, which, while not every one of them was major, it's the most snow events I think we've had any time in the in the recent past. So anyway, it has wrought havoc on our streets, and we've even had to postpone this event a couple of times. But even with the delays, believe it or not, we have filled about 25,000 potholes during this period, even with the snow that we've had on the streets. The number, by the way, just by comparison, is equal to or exceeds the total number that we've done since we started counting potholes back with Potholepalooza back in 2009. The reality is, and this is a good thing, we're very happy with the public, because the public has obviously not only paid attention to these from the perspective of being angry, but also helping us understand where there are potholes and where they need to be responded to. And now we're ramping up our efforts because of the weather having gotten to where it's gotten to. We normally tout or promise, if you will, a 3-day or 72-hour response to potholes being fixed, and we've been pretty good about following that. With Potholepalooza, though, we're reducing that by a third, and so we promised to get potholes fixed by within 48 hours. We had last year about 4,000 potholes that we fixed, with about 900 service requests. The best estimate that we have at this stage is that we've got, given even all of what we've done, we still have around 5,000 to 7,000 potholes that we will tackle over the next 30 days in order to get this done. And no matter what your mode of transportation may be it riding by vehicle or a bicycle or walking, we ask anyone who observes a pothole to please report it to us as soon as you can, and we will get on it. You can do that in a variety of ways. One, of course, is by calling 311, or you can submit a request online at 311.dc.gov. Or you can tweet a pothole location to DDOT at twitter.com/DDOT-DC. Or fourthly, you can send an email to potholepalooza@dc.gov, or you can download and submit a request via the district's DC 311 smartphone app. Everybody got that? I bet you do, don't you? You got that, Matt? Anyway, we launched that app last year during Potholepalooza, and it's been quite popular since. We ask you to give as much information as you possibly can, exactly what the location is of the pothole, the coordinate of the city, and the approximate size and depth of the pothole as well, which will give us the ability then to know exactly how long it will take and how much work will be involved. Residents can go online to DDOT's website and track the repairs on a map. And we've also added extra crews. We have almost everybody that we have available now working on potholes, and will be until, at least for the next 30 days, until we get all of these done. We're also pleased to partner with local utilities. Sometimes people look at cuts in the street and think they are potholes, but they really are utility cuts, because there's always utility work going on by one or another of the utilities in the city. That could include Comcast, or it could include Pepco, Washington Gas, Verizon, and DC Water. And we're working with them to try to make sure that any cuts that they have been responsible for are done at the same time that we're working on Potholepalooza. We think that there's somewhere around 3,000 of these pothole cuts, of these utility cuts in the street. And you can usually tell which ones they are, because they're much more symmetrical than a pothole is. So in any event, we're going to work to make sure that all of this is done, as we've done the last 3 years, make sure it's all done and done in a timely fashion. We had scheduled to start this on March 20th, but inclement weather prevented us from doing this. So today is what, April 9th? So by May 9th, we will have finished the work on this year's Potholepalooza. And believe me, we've heard from lots of people about the condition of some of our streets in the city. Again, some of those have been fixed, and the others will be fixed over the next 30 days. So with that having been said, let me ask Terry Bellamy if he will come up now and share more detail with you on how we are approaching this year's Potholepalooza. Terry?
Thank you, Mayor Gray, and for coming out to kick off this 6th annual Potholepalooza campaign. I have with me Jeff Baxter. He is the face of Potholepalooza this year, and we look forward to having an aggressive repair schedule to repair the streets across the city. One good thing, as the mayor has indicated, we're starting to get some good weather. So you not only see us doing potholes, but we've already started our resurfacing campaign for the year. So by having this great weather and for the public, you know, we need 4 good days for our contractor to get in and mill and start to do the overlays. So you will see our crews out throughout the district trying to make these repairs, these permanent repairs. Each year, Potholepalooza has been very successful, and the reason why it's been successful is because the citizens of the District of Columbia call in. We really appreciate them calling in, letting us know exactly what's happening, where we need to be, and what Jeff would do with his crews is to schedule them to go in and meet our deadline of making these repairs. As the mayor indicated, we are in probably one of the boom periods for the District of Columbia. During the wintertime, even though we had a harsh winter, development continued, and we have our utility companies that are tying into these new development sites. So our campaign with them, Operation Smooth Street, is another major issue. As he's indicated, with over 3,000 utility cuts on our streets and working with our utility companies, we hope that this will be successful in the 30-day period we're going into. And we do have our public space representative here today as well to be able to take questions related to it. But again, thank you for the patience. Thank you for allowing us to fill these potholes, and continue to call 311 to let us know where the potholes are located in the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Gentlemen, why don't you all stay up here? We may have questions about potholes. By the way, this is Jeff Baxter who is joining us. Some of you all may remember Jeff when he played basketball for the University of Maryland. He was a good ball player. No, he wasn't just good, he was great. Anyway, you have any questions on potholes, Matt? Well, normally it would be 72 hours, Matt, but in this instance, with Potholepalooza for the next 30 days, we're reducing that to 48 hours. And we gave, I don't know if you were here when I gave out the various ways in which people can report a pothole, because I was talking about that when you were sitting over there. But in any event, once we get it, people can expect it to be fixed within 48 hours.
Mr. Mayor, are these 48-hour fixes? Are they temporary or they're fixed?
Well, let me let the experts speak to that. But they're fixed. There may be occasions, of course, where work is anticipated on the street, and so it could be pulled up again. But that's because there's a project for that particular street. Obviously, as we get further to undergrounding of wires, that will become an issue as well. But there's no reason to think that the pothole is not fixed when we do the work over that 48-hour period.
More utilities, Mr. Bellamy. It seems to me more people are digging up the streets too. So there are potholes and there are metal plates. We went for a long period where people couldn't dig into our streets, but they seem to be doing it again.
Yeah. So what we would do is that if it's a street that is scheduled for resurfacing or major maintenance, we'll do a temporary patch. If it's a street that we're doing maintenance on, we'll do a permanent patch. We're now able to get hot mix asphalt, so that's what we'll do, a saw cut. As you indicated, if we have utility work going on, and that's our Smooth Road campaign, you may still see some steel plates, but it will be the responsibility of the utility company to do a permanent repair once the plates are removed.
Subject to fines? Subject to fines if they don't?
If they don't do it within the time frame, our public space will issue citations.
I guess for Director Bellamy or Mayor Gray, either way, you mentioned resurfacing campaigns. Are there any specific streets that are going to be resurfaced, or is it just across the city you guys are going to try?
No, they have a plan. I'll let Terry speak to that, but they have a plan for how they do that.
Yes, we have a plan for resurfacing. It will be on our web page. There's two parts to the resurfacing. One is with our contractors, and then the other resurfacing takes place with our in-house crew, the Jeff Baxter run. So as we do this assessment, our major roads will be, we've already started. You see us on Pennsylvania Avenue right now. We're on U Street right now. We're on Rhode Island Avenue right now. Those major streets will be done by contractors, and then our in-house crews, as we finish Potholepalooza, will start paving those local streets.
Actually, apart from the potholes, which is hard to set that aside because that is an experience that is memorable, our streets have been in pretty good shape. We've done a pretty good job with the streets. Obviously, the potholes will leave you with a lasting memory if you hit one the wrong way. But really, if you think broadly beyond the potholes, I think you realize that the streets have been paid attention to in a significant way, Martin. Other questions on that? I think what we're going to do is we're going to go out here so that you all can actually see a pothole being fixed with this. If you haven't seen this apparatus before, it is quite a piece of equipment, to say the least. So join us out here, and we'll show you how this is being done. right, any other questions on the pothole project? If not, we'll open it up for general questions.
Mr. Mayor, following up on your list, can you talk about your recess when you talk about your intentions regarding DC General these audited? Is your commitment to get all of those families out of there by a date certain, or is this just exploring?
No, we're not exploring, Mike. We announced yesterday, we had a session yesterday in which we announced the 500 families in 100 days project. We had well over 700 families. It's not just at DC General, it's in shelter with 3-4 weeks ago. We're down to 640 now, and we're going to pick up the pace. It's 500 families in 100 days. It's also engaging the faith community and asking them to work with these families in a mentoring relationship that would have them basically do what they they already do within the context of their social justice mission. We know that almost half the families that are in shelter, the head of household, if you will, is somebody who is age 24 or under. In many instances, not much older than children themselves. And many of them have never headed a household. So they're going to need that kind of support. We're doing this through the Rapid Rehousing Program, through the Permanent Supportive Housing Program, through the benefits that are available to families that who are, because virtually everybody's TANF eligible who is there. So our commitment is to get 500 families out in 100 days. There may be more. The meeting we had yesterday was with housers, with folks who are responsible for apartments and whatnot. We've already had, just in the 2 or 3 weeks that we've been working on this project, we've had almost 200 apartments that have been made available to us, subject to inspection and certification that it is it's a good place for children to be able to go. The issue, Mike, let me make a point, right? Clearly, and I made it with the ANC chairs the other night, and that is the best solution to the long term, because no matter what, we're going to have families that are in crisis and are going to need shelter at times. We need smaller places. But the problem that we have is the NIMBYism that exists, that people will say, yeah, that's a great idea, just don't put it in my neighborhood. So we've got to have the support of the leadership in this city, beyond just the government leadership, the elected leadership, no matter who they may be, to say, yes, we want to work with you so that families, when they have a crisis, they will be able to go to a place that is different than DC General. DC General was put into service a number of years ago. I don't know when it started, several mayors ago, I guess. But it is not a place that a child should be raised, clearly. But that's unfortunately what we have available to us when we don't get the cooperation of other leadership across the city to say we will do our share to accommodate families. I'd like to close DC General. I'd like to close, but Mike, before we've got to be able to have a place where people can go in crisis. That's why I made the last statement. And if we don't get the cooperation with people to be able to put these homes, these facilities, or whatever in places across the city, then you're going to have places like DC General, because we're not going to leave families on the street. We're just not going to do that. We've used motels, which are very expensive. That's why we're moving as rapidly as we can to other options. So, no, we're not going to leave people out. We don't want to use DC General, but we've got to have the cooperation in establishing, other facilities. No, we're working on that now. We're working on that now.
Is there any way we can clarify?
Yes. What I will do is provide the information that I have, the points of contact that we sent the alerts to for Maryland and Virginia. Today.
Thank you.
Yes.
First one being Director Bellamy, your thoughts. Obviously, as announced yesterday, he's leaving at the end of the month. Your thoughts on Director Bellamy?
My thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm just trying to clarify what you want, okay? We appreciate the work that Director Bellamy has done. He is going to the Southwest. He's leaving the area, and he's welcome to come up and say make any other comments he wants about this. But we think that he's done an excellent job with DDOT. We've made lots of progress. DDOT is a tough agency to be able to lead. You look at the condition of our streets. You look at the work that was done in concert with DPW during the last season, of course, with the snow. So I absolutely wish him the best. I thank him for the work that he has done in the District of Columbia, and I know where he is going will be welcoming him with open arms, given the professionalism and expertise that he brings.
My follow-up is, yesterday a bill was introduced that would take some of the powers away from DDOT, including streetcar and circulator and capital bike share, have them refocus on potholes and designing roads and whatnot. A measure introduced by Councilmember Che. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I haven't even read the bill. I read a synopsis of it in a news article, which means, of course, now I'll go read the bill. We will thoroughly review the bill. We'll have opinions. I think that there'll be maybe hearings that will be conducted over the next several months. I think at best it's months away from seeing the light of day, knowing the legislative process as I do, and we'll happy where there are, where there's likely to be improvements in it. We'll be supportive. Where we think that it will not improve something, we'll be happy to say that and try to work to make sure that whatever we wind up with is a constructive solution. Martin.
Kind of following up on that, are you at all concerned that some of your priorities for the rest of the year could be derailed with public agencies?
Well, you're going to get that to happen. That's going to happen. But we also have a pretty good bench in a number of agencies, and we know what our priorities are going to be, and we'll be happy to talk about those as we go through the next weeks and months. We know we've got close to 9 months in order to be able to get these things done. And I think we'll get them done, Martin. First of all, I want to thank the people who work with me in this administration. This is a pretty extraordinary group of people that I've had the honor of working with. And you look at the accomplishments of this administration, and I don't think there's anybody who can, in a reasonable way, deny the progress that has been made in this city. And it's because of the people who we've been able to work with. They're going to be recruited. I don't have any doubt about that. If I was sitting somewhere else and I had a chance to recruit some of the people working for us, I'd be standing right out there on that sidewalk right now, waiting to see who walks away from this press briefing. But we have a pretty good bench in most instances, so those folks have been involved in it. Lots of times the directors are leading the agency while you have staff who are working on specific issues. So a lot of them will be remaining here, and we'll be working, to move forward with those projects.
And then just a quick second question: have you seen or do you have any thoughts on the school alignment, the school boundary realignment?
Well, it's continuing. It's a continuing process. It'll probably be the fall before we have anything concrete. One of the most important things about that is that we wanted to engage with the public, and Deputy Mayor Smith is leading that effort. She's done a good job of engaging with people. She was out at, I think, Coolidge yesterday, and she will continue. That was not part of my answer, okay? Right? In any event, it will continue well into the fall. There has not been a systematic change in the boundaries. I think you know this since about 1968, 1970. So, 40 plus years ago was the last time this was looked at systematically. So I think that argues by itself for making sure that we do this as thoroughly as we can. Tom?
Mayor, on a politics question, Muriel Bowser, the Democratic nominee for mayor, has indicated both to the Post and to WAMU and others that she is not going to do any forums for the next 5 months until the November ballot is set on September the 8th, when it's certified who's on the ballot. Would you think that's a good, with all the issues that are ongoing, including the ones you just mentioned, do you think Muriel Bowser ought to engage in forums and debates for the next 5 months, or can she wait till September?
I think that's up to Ms. Bowser to, well, I think she will be out. I think the other candidates, if there are candidates, or at least candidate, will be out. And I think people are very creative in this city, and they ought to engage in whatever methods they think will work to get the information and the answers that they want. Matt?
Can I ask you a little bit about your future? I know what you're doing for the next 9 months, but is there a chance that you could run for possibly a council seat in the future?
A council seat? I've been on the council. I have been the Ward 7 member, and I was honored to be able to do that, and I've been the council chair. You know, if you know my history, I did these things because people asked me to do them. I don't see myself doing that, man. I don't see that's in the cards. I'm not running for the council. I don't know how to be more specific than that.
Yesterday, the Attorney General was in front of Congress. He was asked about the conduct of the investigation. He said, paraphrase, he said it was awkward and sometimes these things, but he sort of said you're either damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Either do it and get criticized, or you don't do it and get criticized. Do you have any reaction to his comments there?
No. I assume that the Attorney General has answered the question as best that he possibly can. You know, I think it's obvious that it had an impact with some on the election. I mean, it was done 3 weeks before the election, so it is what it is at this stage. Yes.
I have two more quick questions about back to DC General. Can you explain why specifically you want to close DC General, and how safe is it for children?
Well, first of all, I want to close it because I don't like any congregate care situations like that. If you look at my history, I started my career working on a place called Forest Haven, which was an institution for people with developmental disabilities. There were, I don't know, 1,200 or 1,300 people who were living there. And the idea was to get people out into more human scale situations. And I've spent my whole life trying to do that. DC General is not what I would call a typical human scale experience, especially when you've got very young children involved in it. So the closure of DC General, to me, is not so much the issue. It's how do we get people to more appropriate environments, you know, children especially, when they find themselves in crisis. And the important thing is to as quickly as we can, get people back into permanent housing situations. What a lot of people don't realize is that even though we've had these numbers that have, come to us for crisis intervention, we've placed 1,200 families over the last 2 years back into permanent housing, which is a lot. That gets focused on less than does the number that you find in shelter. The goal is to try to find a more appropriate way of sheltering families when they inevitably wind up in crisis. And I don't care how good the times are, you're going to find some families who wind up in an experience like that. What was your second question?
How safe is DC General for children?
It's not a good place for children. You have lots of children who are living there. I mean, I'm not going to put it on a safety scale of 1 to 10 because I wouldn't know how to measure that. But the fact of the matter is, it's about whether psychologically this is a good place for children to be. You know, can you imagine an 8-year-old going to school, or a 7-year-old, or a 6-year-old, or a 9-year-old going to school and having to say that, you know, kids inevitably say, where do you live? And I live at DC General in a shelter, or I'm in a shelter. No child wants to do that, and that is psychologically debilitating for a young person. So we're trying to get them as quickly as we can back to a more normal experience.
You have the last question.
Thank you. Mayor, respectfully, it's been more than a month since Relisha has been considered missing. And then your press release went out yesterday. Some people want to know why you've waited so long.
Why it waited so long?
Why? What prompted that after a more
Well, we obviously have engaged with this issue from day one. at this point, we had hoped that law enforcement would have been able to solve this situation. Obviously, that was, that was compounded by what happened to Mr. Tatum, with his death. And we haven't had more information to come forward, and I just wanted people to understand now. We didn't want to interfere with the law enforcement investigation by any stretch, but I wanted people to understand that we are continuing to focus. We will focus on this piece of it at this stage as law enforcement continues to do its work to try to find Relisha and settle this horrific situation that has occurred. Paul, you want to add to that?
Yeah, the next part of the question was?
The question was, I think, why we issued a release yesterday, which was...
Now we got that press release yesterday. I'm just wondering what prompted that specifically.
I think just the timing. We wanted to make sure people understood that we were continuing to work on this issue. Some of these investigations, they recede into the background. As horrific as they may be in the moment, they recede into the background at times, and we want people to understand that this is hugely important to us, that our law enforcement officials are continuing with the investigation, and that we are focusing now on the processes and procedures, that we use with families that are in shelter. And it was an opportunity also to talk about the question that we got earlier, and that is, what are we doing now around efforts now that hypothermia season is over? What are we doing to get families moved forward? And the 500 Families in 100 Days initiative is new, as is the one family, one congregation initiative as well. And we think both, especially in tandem, certainly could be enduring solutions for the future of the city. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.